So we appreciate having you, and the expert is going to take it from here. We introduced Mr. Jason Swan from the United States Secret Service, who will take us through the presentation. After that, you'll be hearing from Pennridge Regional Police Chief, Mr. Paul Dickinson, and Ms. Jen Summers, who is our Director of Pupil Services here at Pennridge. A lot of great resources for you tonight. As we put out earlier, this is not being streamed, but as you can see, the program will be recorded. We always like to give you a resource down the road, so you can watch it on YouTube as you would take notes tonight, but you can always then watch it at your own pace and take notes from YouTube as many times as you need. Thanks again for coming.
Good evening. Is that picking up? Good. So my name is Jason Swan. I work with the Secret Service, and before I jump right in and kind of give you my background and everything, one of the first things I usually have to address here is being from the Secret Service, because a lot of times that'll catch people off guard. This one? Oh, this is for that. Sorry, following directions sometimes. So the question becomes, what's the Secret Service have to do with, online safety and protecting kids, and why are we here tonight giving this information to everybody here? And I could go on for the first 3 or 4 minutes and give that information to you, but we put together a video that does a much better job than I can ever do, and I try to do a really good job, but the video does a little bit more. So I'm going to show you a quick little 2-minute video, gives you a background of the program, why we're here, and then I'll go into my background, and then we'll get into what we're here for tonight.
The United States Secret Service is most known for protecting the President of the United States, but the agency has another critical role that involves families. For more than 20 years, the Secret Service and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children have been working together to keep our children safer. In 1997, the Secret Service was the first federal agency to assign a liaison to the National Center's headquarters in Alexandria, Virginia.
The partnership with the U.S. Secret Service has been one of the most long-standing partnerships we've had here. They use their technical services, their polygraph examiners, all their case analysis to help us protect children.
The Secret Service also provides community outreach with several safety programs. With Operation Safe Kids, the Secret Service visits schools and creates an identification packet with the child's picture and fingerprints. Important for any parent and law enforcement if a child ever goes missing. Using child safety and education programs created by the National Center, like KidSmarts and NetSmarts, the Secret Service helps educate kids and adults. The age-appropriate information and tools cover safety topics from abduction prevention to child sexual exploitation to sextortion.
The Secret Service is reaching parents and children of all ages. In fact, it's very vital that we get into the schools and talk to the teenage kids. The Secret Service's goal is to get into the schools and communities, inform the children, and give them the best defense of all, which is wisdom.
And the Secret Service is magnifying its outreach with a new initiative called the Childhood Smart Program. Employees now deliver NetSmarts and KidSmarts presentations worldwide.
A lot of the information that I'm giving to kids is coming from our actual cases that we've worked. So I know that I'm not talking about a hypothetical situation. I'm talking about a child, a real child that was victimized. And it's very hard not to internalize that because I am a mother and I do have a child. So when I'm up there, I'm giving it all that I have so that I can really make sure that these kids are receiving the message that I'm giving them.
Collaboration across agencies and organizations like the Secret Service and the National Center helps make our communities safer.
We are so grateful at the National Center to have this partnership with the United States Secret Service. Without their help, we wouldn't be reaching as many children and families as we do.
So the next time you see the men and women of the Secret Service protecting the President of the United States, remember, they also have a deep commitment to protecting our children across the globe. For more information,
Okay, so that's a nice little background of the program. It's been with the Secret Service since 1997. We've had the relationship with the National Center. The National Center, to kind of give a high overview of what they do, they're like a clearinghouse for all types of information across the country. So they track everything that's happening in all 50 states of when children are being exploited, whether it's their videos are being posted, what tricks the bad people are using to try to get more pictures and videos from the kids, and everything else that how they're being exploited. They track it, and then every once in a while they update the slides and give us new information to come out and to deliver to you the trends, what they're seeing at DC on a national level, so this way you can kind of keep your eyes and ears open for what might be happening locally and give you more information to be more prepared when you see it in your own community. So this is one of the presentations they've put together. It's internet safety for parents, communities, and guardians. And it's a good overview for everything that you can look for to notice changes in behavior, to understand what what our children are up against, how to better protect yourselves, and things you can look out for to notice, something's going on. I need to kind of get to the bottom of this. I need to understand why this is happening. What can I do? And then if you find yourself or somebody in a situation where they they made a bad decision and they posted a video or they sent a message that they can't take back, what can you do? Do you just, as frustrated as you might be and as disappointed as you might be, you still have to have information as to how to go out there and address it and the steps you can take and where the resources you can get. So we talked to all of those situations tonight. So this program that they've started, the NetSmarts program that the video kind of talked about, sorry, and I meant to give you my background. Sometimes I get so excited to just roll into it, I forgot. So I've been with the Secret Service for about 6 years. I've been an ambassador for about 5 of those years. I've probably done about 200 presentations, some like this, and mostly in the schools to the kids from anywhere from K to 3 grades and then to high schools. And it's been any group size from 15 kids to an auditorium filled with 3rd to 5th grade this size. So I've kind of run the gamut of seeing every single situation that could come up. One of the things that's always come out of those, no matter the size of the audience or the age group of the audience, it almost happens every single time that somebody comes up to me or one of the teachers after and says, you know what, something like that happened to a friend of mine, or something, I did something like that and I never knew I was right or wrong until today. So it's happening everywhere, and it's just a matter of, unfortunately, it's just a matter of not so much when or if, but when it's going to happen to somebody or somebody in the community. Prior to going into the Secret Service, I was a municipal law enforcement in New Jersey for 20 years. I was, started out as an SRO in a K to 8 school district, did 7 or 8 years or 6 years there. Then I got promoted, went onto the street as a sergeant. We had a 2,300 person regional high school. So I kind of had the SRO experience dealing with, what 8th graders would deal with back and forth. And then as a responding sergeant with a high school in the area, I would respond to the school when, Timmy would post on Twitter that he broke up with Janie and Timmy brought a gun to school that day. And then, handling that type of situation and all the permutations that could come out of that. So I spent a lot of time either working with the kids and trying to make them safer, giving them more information, and it's just continued for basically the last 25 years. So this program that the National Center created is NetSmarts, and it's age-appropriate material delivered to the kids, and it's also very vital for you guys as adults and parents and guardians to know what to look for and know the behaviors and know when something's going on. And we talk about empowering, engaging, and encouraging. So you want to give them the information, the kids, the information to make the right decisions, engage with them, because no amount of software, no amount of apps, no amount of technology is going to catch everything. The best person to see what's going on is you, because you know their behavior. And I usually use an analogy here where the Secret Service uses a very similar type of thought process. We can put 100 agents around the president, we can build 30-foot walls around the White House, and we can build them the biggest armored car in the world, which we've done all those things, but that still doesn't stop that one person who wants to drive from California all the way across country, drive up into the White House driveway, commit suicide, or throw a bomb across the fence, or still try to do those things, to have an unwanted outcome towards the president. So we spend a lot of time, what we call protective intelligence, looking for changes in behavior, looking for indicators that something's going on with somebody, that They were acting a certain way and now they're not. Now there's a change in behavior. They're making certain statements. They're acting a certain way. There are clues there that if we look deeper and we see what's going on, we find out that that person might have an indication that they're going to do something, and we can kind of do things to mitigate it before we have an unwanted outcome. And I use that analogy to talk to everybody here because everybody sitting here knows their kids the best. You know their behavior, you know their moods, you know what's going on in their lives. And you are in the best position to see when that behavior changes, when they're not as responsive, when they're distancing themselves, when something's changed in their life. And it's the engage and encourage now is what we want to talk about, is to have the ability to talk to them to find out what's bringing that change about. Why are they not behaving the way they were last week, last month? Why do they not want to have dinner anymore? Why are they avoiding their phone? And we'll talk about all those things, but that's what it comes down. That's what a lot of this really boils down to at the very bottom level. So what do your children do online? Regardless of the age, I have a fourth grader at home. She's had a phone, or a tablet, for a year or so. She's on Roblox all the time, so she's engaging. She's running around Roblox, in all those worlds. She's into Minecraft, so she likes running around Minecraft, and she's engaging with people on there. So, even in fourth grade at 9 years old, you're having interaction with somebody online. As we get older, they start playing Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto. They're engaging all these PlayStation, Xbox games. They're on their phones. They have the opportunity to use VR now, so they have the Oculus. They can go on there and engage people online. Computers seem to be going away, but still everybody watches Twitch and YouTube, and everybody wants to be a streamer or a gamer or whatever. So that's going to be their career. So there's all these opportunities for them to do things online. Not to age myself or anybody else sitting here, but when we were their age, we didn't have any of those things. So it's only been these last 10 or 15 years that this technology has really exploded, and they have so many opportunities to not only use this powerful tool, but there's also a lot of opportunities here to make bad decisions. So we want to educate them to prevent these bad decisions, because who knows how they're going to be going online in the next 5 years. Apple Watches, what's going to evolve that we're not even thinking about yet today. I've talked about some of the things we do online, the gaming, the communications, the large chat rooms, usually when I talk to the high school kids, they're in Discord or Snapchat. They have group chats of 50, 75, over 100 people. And, they wear it as a badge of honor to be able to talk to that many people, but it's also a very powerful tool to get a lot of bad information out there quickly. So we have to stress that they have to make the right decisions and do the right things when that comes up. Technology doesn't catch everything. So the best thing to do is, where I'm leading is, it's that relationship. It's watching for changes in behavior. I always get the question, or one of the first times I did this presentation, and I saw it was one of the questions tonight, somebody came up to me and says, I thought you were going to tell me what app to get that's going to catch everything and I'll never have to worry about anything. And unfortunately, there's no such thing, or there's no technology that's going to catch every single thing that might happen on the phone. It might give you peace of mind to investigate and have your own software, that you want to have an app, you want to have something on the phone so you feel better that you have that monitoring software. And if you're comfortable with that, that's great. Whatever level of monitoring you're comfortable with, whatever cost you're willing to bear, that is on you and your family to make that decision. The service and my position is, we don't recommend any particular app because there's just too many out there. You have to kind of decide what level you want. And I will caution you to kind of think it through a little bit. If you got an app that every time that took a screenshot of your child's phone every 30 seconds and sent you a text of it, that's great. That's super monitoring, and you'll be able to see everything. But I also think it's kind of like the Ring camera. Everybody's got the Ring or some motion sensor at home, and the first couple of days you have it, you look at your phone, you see what's going on, you look at it, and you're right there, you're right on top of it. After a couple of weeks or a couple of months, it'll ding, and you might not even think twice to look at it anymore. And the same thing could happen with this software, where after a while it becomes like noise in the background, like junk mail, and you're toning it out. If something goes sideways and you need to review like some harassment or somebody's asking for something, it could be a great tool where you can dig into it and get back to it. But just think about what level you would want if you wanted to go the technology route. The best thing I could recommend is what the direction I'm leading everybody in, and that is be an interactive person in their lives. Understand what's going on. Engage them into what's going on. And I'll talk about how we can do that as we get into some more of the slides. The one thing we want to avoid, we don't want, as much as possible, we don't want them to go doing their own investigations. We don't want them getting answers from their friends. My daughter's in 4th grade. She comes home with questions, and then I'll explain it to her, or my wife will explain it to her, and then she goes, well, so-and-so said, no, this is what it really means. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid them using their friends as a resource. So we want to have those difficult conversations with them. We need to understand and start addressing it at the right age, how to have these conversations, what's appropriate, having boundaries, and making good decisions.
From a child's perspective, growing up with somebody like yourself, for parents, it's a huge thing to have the ability to just listen and have an open dialogue, because at the end of the day, children don't have anybody to ask about how life works. They're just thrown into this crazy world, and they have no idea how to interact with it and interpret it. And they need somebody like a parent, whether it's their parent or somebody else's, to help them learn that and understand that. And if you're not providing that to your kid, they're gonna have some problems online, right? It's just the name of the game.
So what are the online risks that we're talking about today? We're talking about the inappropriate content, privacy, enticement, sexting, sextortion, and cyberbullying. These are like the 6 topics that we have to have with our kids. We have to figure out a way to do it, and we have to kind of ensure that they have an understanding of what these things are and how to address them, how to be knowledgeable, and how to make the right decisions. Now, you look at those titles and you're like, well, I've got a 4th grader, I can't talk about sexting to them. But if you talk about it in an age-appropriate manner, you're able to do that. When we're talking to 3rd graders, or when I talk to a 3rd grader, I don't talk about bullying. I talk about netiquette, which is basically etiquette, and we add net to it, and it's online manners. Explain to them what typing in all caps means and the proper use of emojis, and just understanding what that relationship is. The inappropriate content and how that can confuse kids when they're young. And when I talk to the 3rd and 5th graders, I always ask them, who watches YouTube? Is it YouTube or YouTube Kids? And almost always now, YouTube Kids is almost out the window. The kids all watch YouTube now, and I always ask them, what happens when if you're looking at them making slime or cutting up a squishy, what happens when that's over? And then they say an ad comes up, and then I say, what happens after that? And then like another video comes up, and I was like, is that video always what you want it to be? No, sometimes it's X, Y, and Z. So we need to make sure they know how to handle that, and that they could come talk to you if that next video has something that's inappropriate or that they weren't prepared to see, or makes them scared or confused or just difficult to understand. As they get older, if you have older kids at home, we can have the conversation about, sending the sexting photos and meeting people you've only met offline, and what boundaries are. And there's a lot of situations where, and I will talk about them, everybody's afraid of like the boogeyman in the basement getting pictures and videos from your kids. There's been examples of it's upperclassmen, it's cheer captains, it's other issues in the community, it's people they know that demand for them to do things. So it could come both from outside and within. This next video makes it this is available online, it's put out by the National Center, talks about and kind of explains how you can have this conversation, even with the youngest kids, just as kind of like a general idea for you guys.
Zion, what are you doing here?
Oh, hi, Webster.
Hey, what's wrong?
Go ahead, Zion. You can tell them. They're NetSmart's kids. They might know a way to help.
Okay, so remember how I showed you some of my pins? Well, like I said, that was only some of them. I've got tons. I have a whole video channel dedicated to them. I do unboxings, ratings, cleanings, stuff like that. But I also stream myself playing video games. I've got a good number of followers, and sometimes they're playing the same game as me, and we work together on a level. Or I do a live stream and people message to ask for tips or tricks. Just normal stuff like that. But then, the other day, I got this direct message from someone in the game chat. I didn't recognize the username, but they said they had a picture of me. A really embarrassing picture of me doing something I probably shouldn't have done on live stream. But I was just goofing off. I only mooned the camera because my followers dared me to. They said it'd be funny, so I did it. And this person had a screenshot picture of it. They said they'd send it to all of my followers if I didn't send them 10,000 goldies. You've got to be really good to get goldies, so sometimes people buy them or sell them. But that amount is impossible. It took me a year just to get the 600 I have now.
Wow, I'm really sorry that happened to you. Did you report them?
No, I couldn't. See, when I messaged back and asked them to delete the picture, they said no. Not until I paid the goldies. Then, when I said I'd report them, they said that I'd be the one in trouble, and that they'd send the picture anyway.
Have you told anyone else about this?
Well, now I've told you, plus Harold. I can't tell my dad, he'll get mad at me. So when I needed a trusted adult, I thought of Harold. He's our neighbor, and he's always been really nice to me. I just want to get that picture down and go back to normal.
I bet. But you know, once something's online, it's hard to control where it goes.
That's why I'm so stressed out. What am I gonna do?
Well, you've taken the first step by asking for help. I still think you should report this person. The way they threaten you is not okay.
He's right. You can report what happened directly to the site's safety team. Almost all sites have them. They may have a way to get the picture off their server.
I looked into that. The safety team and server for my channel is all the way out on Letus, which is, also part of why I came to you, Harold. Would you take me to Letus to help me get the picture down?
Well, I'll help you, but you have to tell your dad first. I know it will be hard, but I'll come with you.
All right, I guess. But this is not gonna be fun.
Hey, we'll tag along too. We've got your back.
All right, so obviously that's geared towards a younger age child, and yes, but what we need to do when they're the smaller third, fifth grade, or even younger is to start having those expectations of the relationship that you're going to have with them and their phone. It's one of the examples I always use is, you know, if you've got you're making the decision, if you've got somebody young at home, you're making the decision to finally give them the phone or let them have the phone or get their own phone. And the best thing, or one of the better things to think about doing is, you know, every couple of X amount of time, whatever time period is appropriate, but every once in a while, just say, let me have your phone and look at it. Just scroll through, see what the messages say and everything else. And chances are, if they're in fifth grade or sixth grade, the messages are just going to be to a couple of friends that you already know, and or to you and the family members, and you're going to know all the contacts and everything's going to be fine. But that's the expectation that mom, dad, whoever's in the house can always grab my phone or take a look at my phone and see what's going on. If you gave them their phone when they're in sixth grade and then wait until they're, you know, a sophomore in high school, and this is the first time you're going to turn around and say, I need to see your phone, you're going to get that wall up, you're going to get those big defenses, you're going to get a lot of pushback on that because, you know, it's been 6 years they've had their own phone, you've never asked them to look at it, and now you're, you know, invading their privacy and doing something you've never done, and they're going to get defensive. But if from the get-go, or as early as possible, you've set the expectation that, yeah, I'm mom, I'm dad, I'm whoever, I'm going to look at your phone when I want to, it's going to be a lot more expected and a lot more acceptable later on when it when it comes up. I'm not going to read line by line. I'm going to kind of emphasize that, so I should have emphasized that earlier. So some of the inappropriate content we talk about: pornography, excessive violence, hate speech, illegal behaviors, and there's examples at all ages. And I'll start with the risky and illegal behaviors. You know, I've got if I'm talking to third and fifth graders, I'll ask them, who babysits here? And, a couple of girls will raise their hand, and I'll ask them, or I'll say, if you're posting online, because everybody has Instagram, everybody has Facebook, and I'll say, if you're posting risky behavior online where you're going into abandoned properties and climbing fences and riding your bike without your helmet and posting it on the Instagram, that's your profile. Think about that. And I said, let's say I move into the town and I need a babysitter. So I go on the Pennridge Facebook page and I say, I need a babysitter. And somebody recommends Julie and somebody recommends Susie. And I say, I go to both your Instagrams. And Julie is going into vacant properties and climbing fences and not wearing a helmet and staying out late and doing all this dangerous behavior. And Susie is, studying and spending time with her family and younger kids. I said, who am I going to choose as a babysitter? It's going to be the one who makes the better decisions. And that works for the fifth grade. And the older kids, when I talk to the high school kids, every year, we just had the draft, and I didn't see any stories this time, but it seems every year there's a draft, there's always usually some sort of social media buzz over something that somebody did that caused them to drop in the draft. A couple of years ago, it was the lineman Lyle Collins was going to be like a top 10 pick, and then the marijuana use came out, and he went undrafted. A few years ago, there was a pitcher. He was going to be drafted in the second round, or first round, sorry, like a top 15 pitcher. He's going to be drafted into the major leagues. And then it came out that when he was a sophomore in high school, he had posted some racially insensitive comments on Twitter, and then that was discovered like 6 years later and ended up causing him to drop in the draft, causing him millions of dollars. Not to pick on the male athletes, there was a story that came out about 6 months ago. There was a girl who was a cheerleader. She had a full ride scholarship to LSU, going to be a cheerleader, living her dream to continue that lifestyle. And when she was a sophomore in high school, she sent a Snapchat video, racially insensitive, about a classmate. The school handled it however they handled it, but somebody also saved that video, and then as she's graduating, they sent that video to LSU and said, do you want this person representing your university? And obviously, not long thereafter, LSU pulled a scholarship, and she was kind of left on her own. The important thing there to drive home the point is the two facts of decisions they make today can come back and affect them 3, 5, 8 years down the line. And also, once it's out there, it doesn't come back. And those are some points that I drive home in all my presentations, and you guys should emphasize when you have these conversations with your children, that yes, we do everything we can if you make a bad decision to help you, but once it's out there, it's very difficult to get back. And these decisions, even though you think you're a freshman in high school and nothing's going to be a problem, it could be a problem that you're not thinking about yet. It can affect you 4 years or 8 years down the line. What you want to be is, you heard in the story, it's be a trusted adult. And a trusted adult is the person in that child's life that they can go talk to, that they're comfortable talking to. You don't have to be like the big scary person. You want to be safe and secure for them, sure, but you also want to be that shoulder that they're comfortable coming to talk to. And there's times, and not to hurt anybody's feelings, where it might be a teacher who they feel more comfortable talking to, or maybe it's grandma or grandpa, or an aunt or uncle, or maybe there's a 20-something cousin or something that they're more comfortable talking to about what's going on in their lives. But everybody should have somebody that they can talk to meet these kind of situations. You want to be a good listener. Help them take action. The worst thing you can do is to listen to them. They come to you with a problem, and then you kind of just blow it off and don't do anything about it. Because are they going to come to you again with the next problem? Probably not. As frustrating as it might be, remaining calm is very important in this situation. You have a high school age daughter at home, and she comes to you and says, look, I sent this photo to my boyfriend or my significant other, and X, Y, and Z happened, and now 10 people in the school have it. And your first reaction, your blood's going to boil, and you're going to want to rip the phone and never let them have the phone again. All those things are probably accurate, but if you send that message and reinforce that, you lose your temper and blow your top, what happens the next time that she's in a situation? Is she going to come to you, or have you scared her away? So think about that. And I know it's very difficult to say, take a deep breath and help them understand the situation, but the response can also set the foundation for future reporting to you. emphasizing that don't frighten them away. We want to have that trustworthiness with them. We want to be the parent, and you have every right to get mad and have consequences for their decisions. But if you were to, like, let's say, just for an example, you can't have your phone for 6 months, you can't have the car for 6 weeks, you're not leaving your room for 6 days, whatever punishment and groundings and everything else. If that message got reinforced because, she sent a photo to a boyfriend, what happens next time? Maybe she did something else. She's not going to come to you again. Maybe she tries to dig herself out of that hole herself. And that's not what we want. We want them to come forward. We want them to seek help from an adult in their life. Last thing we want the kids trying to do is resolving these situations on their own. Sometimes, going back down to the younger kids again with the YouTube, make sure you have an understanding of what they can do when they see the YouTube video that they're not supposed to see. Make sure they know the back button. Make sure they know how to turn it off. Make sure they know that they come talk to you, and then you can adjust the privacy settings or filter or block certain websites or whatever might have caused that video to pop up or that website to pop up. 3 things everybody here can work with: privacy settings on the apps, the social media. It's crazy. I know you're supposed to be 12 to get a lot of apps. When I talk to 3rd to 5th grade, I always ask, and most of the hands go up that they're already on Instagram, they're already on Snapchat, they're already on TikTok, and that's 3rd grade, 4th grade, so we're talking 8, 9, 10, well under 12. I always joke around and I say, put your hands up if you have TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Most of the hands go up. And then I say, leave your hands up if your parents don't know you have those apps on your phone. And there's always there's always about 1/3 of the hands always stay up that mom, dad, or whoever's at home don't know that the apps are on the phone. Again, just something to think about. Privacy settings, everybody wants to have followers, everybody wants to have likes, and that's all great. But when it's a very powerful thing if you don't know what you're doing. And oftentimes, the kids that I talk to have wide open social media. They're not restricted, they're not private. Oftentimes, I'm able to go find them if I just open up my phone and spend 5 minutes on looking for them. I can sometimes find kids in the audience, and that's way too easy. So we need to have their privacy settings set as restrictive as possible. We need to monitor their friends list and make sure it's everybody you only know. Blocking and reporting. Your internet service provider can help you monitor or really tone down what comes through your websites. You can adjust your firewalls on your computer. The internet service provider can make it more restrictive to what comes through, and you can maybe filter out some other words and topics and just make it so it's a very, very clean internet that they have access to. Going back to the inappropriate content, talked about the inappropriate illegal behavior, the threats of violence, the underage drinking, drug use, and hate speech. And I kind of talked about some of the possible repercussions for engaging in that behavior. And it's also, for us and for many, many organizations now, when you make an application to a college, when you make an application to a full-time job, they're asking for your social media. And they're going to look and they're going to see what type of person that is. When I did this presentation a week ago or 2 weeks ago, somebody who was from a local medical facility said, the first thing we do now is check all their social media account to see if they would make a good candidate to be in the doctor program, the medical program rather. So once it's out there, it's always out there. People look and have to help them make better decisions to what they put there. Online privacy, making sure what they share is okay. What they can share as far as pictures of themselves, pictures of friends, pictures of family, how much personal information should go out there? Very little or none. But again, these are all conversations you should have with them so they understand the rules and the expectation. They shouldn't engage with people in the chat rooms. They shouldn't be providing information to anybody outside of the family that they know in real life. Checking in, sharing their current location, when they snap that we're going shopping or whatever. there's some doom and gloom stories around that. And, I do tell them, even though I'm not on your Snapchat, I'm not on your Twitter, I've got geolocated software on my computer where I can see what you're saying and if you're within a certain distance of me. And I always use as an example, you go shopping, you get dropped off at, say, King of Prussia Mall, you're going to be there for 3, 4, 5 hours because it's prom season or it's dress season. So mom drops you off at King of Prussia, you take a snap of you take a selfie of the 3 friends you're with, you put a snap out, and you say, hashtag prom season. And then here you are walking right by my car, and I see you because your profile, is your profile picture is your selfie. I see you walk by with 3 of your friends. I know you're going to King of Prussia. Now I know I've got 5 hours before anybody's going to think twice if anything bad might have happened to you. And, that's a drastic situation, but that's the type of stuff that is out there that bad things can happen if there's oversharing information. And everybody sitting here has probably committed this one Everybody has committed this one indiscretion. You're on Facebook. That's the old people's social media now. You're on Facebook. You're at the airport and you're checking in because you're going to Disney, you're going on a cruise, you're going to Florida. And that's great. You're telling all your family and friends that you're going away and you're happy about going away. But what are you also telling? You're telling your friends and neighbors, some maybe who you don't get along with or want to do bad things to your property, that nobody's going to be home for 3 or 4 days. So sometimes we overshare just as much as the kids do. Personal information that you should have a specific conversation with them about. Obviously passwords, where they live, what their location is, cell phone numbers, and email addresses. I had a 3rd grader, when I talked to a 3rd grade once, raise his hand and said, my friend, he says, speaking of sharing your username and login, my friend and me, we both play Fortnite, and he doesn't have a very good game because his parents, don't let him play very often and whatever he said. He said, but I wanted him to play my game, so I gave him my login and password. And he said, but he went in there and spent all the money my parents had put on my account and then lost all the skins and everything else and really ruined my game. And I hated to use him as an example, but I said, but now you learned in 3rd grade, don't share your login and password even with your best friend. And unfortunately, that's the case. Talk about email addresses and cell phone numbers so they are aware of, so we can try to limit their junk email and everything else. They're coming in on text messages now, the junk emails, and I throw adults under the bus when I talk to the high school kids because every day in my office in Philly, we get a call. It's, somebody says, I got an email, I responded, they said, do X, Y, wire them this amount of money, they're going to pay my mortgage off. And I did all that, I never got my deed, and they took $167,000 from me. And adults are bad at this too, not paying attention to what's going on in the email, not paying attention to what's going on in the phones. So we just have to get them reinforced as early as possible. Be careful what you're responding to. Be careful what pop-ups you're answering. Be careful when people are asking you for information. Some of the risks, bullying, enticement, hacking, stalking, some of the financial risks we talk about. So this is going back to that first slide with the empower, encourage, engage. This is where the engagement comes back. We want to have the conversation with them. When I say them, meaning your kids. What apps are they using? What's popular? Talk to them about it. Find out what's going on. Everybody's watching TikTok right now. Ask them what's popular now. My daughter likes Lulu the Pug, where she, and she'll watch it on my phone or my wife's phone. But that's what her and her friends like. They all like Lulu the Pug. They watch the TikTok at night and they go to school the next day and they talk about it at lunch. But have that conversation to know what's popular and keep that engagement going so you understand and you can kind of talk about, well, we shouldn't do this at home and we shouldn't do that. And then when you see on the news, you hear about TikTok challenges and you're like, well, we should be in front of that. So this way you can, again, have the conversation about dangerous and risky behavior that might be coming up. Talk about their friends list. Have an understanding that it's very likely that they have 2 social media accounts. One where, you're on their Instagram and grandma, grandpa, aunt and uncle, cousins are all on their Instagram. And then they have another Instagram where their friends, it's the friend's Instagram. So they might have 2 different social media accounts. Not everybody does it, but be aware that that's something that does happen. and understand that friends list. Scroll through it every once in a while. If you pop up, you've got and a lot of times it's boys for whatever reason. You've got a son at home and he's 17, and you pop up Instagram and he's got 1,700 friends or 1,100 friends. I don't know 1,100 people, and I don't know 1,100 people I'd want to have see my Instagram. So there's probably a problem there, and we need to have a conversation about why do you have 1,700 Instagram followers. So online enticement, that engagement through online where they're looking to exploit a weakness. They're looking to exploit who they believe to be a child. They want to get something from them, whether it's photos, videos, or money. They're usually engaging in chat rooms or Discord or a setting where there's a group getting together, free chat, not Roblox, but a similar type of multiplayer online platform where a lot of people are engaging with each other. And then they just start having a conversation. And then once they get once they get a clue from somebody that there's something to talk about, now they'll dig in and they'll peel away the layers to see what's going on. So solicitations, again, social networking, Instagram talked about the dangers of having a wide open account. One of the things, the scenarios I always talk about is grooming, which is on the next slide, but the situation is very significant when we're talking about what can happen when they're engaging with others. Sometimes they even know who is enticing them or soliciting them online. There was an example, there was a cheerleader, there was a girl, mom was paying attention, much like I talked about today. Mom was paying attention to her behavior. Noticed she started having some new clothes. And mom goes, how did you afford these new clothes? When did you go shopping and get, whatever she was wearing? She goes, well, I saved babysitting money and I had birthday money left over and I went shopping with so-and-so the other day. Mom chalked it up to, okay, you got that one. I'm going to pay closer attention. Week later, 10 days later, mom goes in the daughter's room again, sees a purse. Mom knows what purses cost. Mom knows that babysitting and leftover birthday money didn't pay for the purse. Mom happens to open up the purse, finds a deposit slip in the purse for a bank account on a local bank in the daughter's name. No co-owner, no dad's on there either. It's just the daughter. Now, confronts the daughter, comes to find out the daughter was on a cheerleading squad. The head cheerleader, because she was 18, also had a requirement that everybody had to sell pictures of themselves. So she was like a ringleader, that to be on the cheerleading squad and to be accepted on the cheerleading squad, you'd have to offer photos of yourself for sale. And she would get to keep some of the money, which is why she had a bank account that the head cheerleader opened for her, but split money with the cheerleader, kept money for herself, and it was just to sell photos, but it was a requirement to be on the cheerleading squad. So it's not always the boogeyman in the basement. Sometimes it's people they know. There was another example where the senior class at a local high school was demanding photos of incoming freshmen to be accepted in the school the following year. The whole, you want to come to the high school, you want to have friends, you want to be accepted. Whatever story they were told, they were enticing incoming freshman females to send photos, and many of them did comply. Until obviously people can't keep, stories get out, people can't kind of keep things like that quiet for too long, and it did blow up halfway through the year. But again, just more examples of, sometimes it's best friends, sometimes it's people they know. You can groom by natural curiosity, gradually introducing the situation, offering things that they're not getting somewhere else, whether it's information, compassion, gifts, money, whatever it might be. A lot of times, kids might hear about, we've got this going on or we've got that going on, and then somebody exploits that little weakness. People in their lives are too busy for them, and then somebody exploits it. The example I always use when I talk to the high school kids with the grooming is, I'll use an example of somebody with a wide open Instagram account. I find them and I friend them. And I always say, if I send you a friend request because you've got 1,100 friends on Instagram, You probably get 7, 8, 9, 10 friend requests a day. I'll send you a friend request. I'll just be one of 6 or 7, however many you got that day. And you don't have any litmus tests. You don't have any qualification to be your friend on social media, so you just accept everybody. And I said, if I was to say slide into your DMs that afternoon and say, send me nudes or do this or do that, I said, that would be a big red flag. You'd see that coming a mile away, but that's not how this works. I said, for this example, you accept my friend request, I'm sitting there, and you just start posting photos, over a couple of days, over a couple of weeks, whatever, and I just like them. I'm not sending any messages, I'm not commenting, I just like your photos. And what I'm doing, because everybody and most people will do this, they always scroll through to see who liked it, to see who saw the photo. They always want that satisfaction. Oh, I did this, it's really cool, I want to make sure so-and-so saw it, or I want to make sure this person sees it, whatever. But you start scrolling through that and you start seeing Jason 123 like the photo, Jason 123 like the photo. That might go on for weeks or months. And it might seem pretty innocuous, but then I'm also setting a foundation that Jason 123 is a friend. He hasn't done anything weird or anything like that. He just likes my photos. And then I said, one day, and that day may never come, one day you're going to have a bad day. You're going to post a rainy image. You're going to be in a fight with mom. You're going to fail a test at school. Dad took your car away, broke up with your significant other, whatever it is, and you're going to post it on Instagram. You're going to post it. And now all of a sudden, here comes Jason 123. He's going to have all the answers. Whether it's, I failed that same test, I hate my teacher, I fight with my mom, my dad, whatever opening you give me, I'm going to exploit it. And now we're starting to talk. And now it's going to develop. And whatever information you give me, I'm going to exploit. It might take days, it might take weeks, it might take months, it might never happen. But eventually, we're going to get to a situation where I'm your best friend. I'm telling your parents, they wouldn't understand our relationship. Don't tell your friends about me. They're not your real friends, I am. You know what? Now that I think about it, your parents probably wouldn't get along with me. I'm going to leave your phone at the Royal Farms behind the Doritos. Come by and get it. Or let me Venmo you some cash so you can get a burner phone so we can talk more. And then that's how it develops and whatever direction it goes in. And a lot of times, you think to yourself, that'll never happen. My daughter, my son's too smart. There was a raid, or there was a briefing from the FBI Philadelphia. They had arrested somebody with 1,100 victims on his computer in Philadelphia. 1,100 different people, children, adults, everything else. And each one of the files, each one of the victims, he had phone numbers, social media, information about them. Basically, everything I'm kind of going into, he was keeping track of to the tune of 1,100 victims. So obviously, you would think, he's looking at a lot of jail time. He's got a lot of legal problems. So he's kind of like the FBI's best friend right now. He's kind of given up all his tricks and all the stuff he did. And kind of my little grooming scenario is some of what he said he would use. With 1,100 victims, his mantra or his claim to fame or this fame, whatever, is if you give me enough time, I'll get a photo from anybody. And with 1,100 victims, you have to kind of give him that credit that he probably could get a photo from anybody. So just think about that. That's what they're up against. But that's the boogeyman in the basement. That's the guy who's 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, never leaves his computer. The type of person you see on TV in the worst case scenarios. And I say that, and I give you that scenario and I say the same thing when I talk to the high school kids. I'm talking to you for an hour tonight. I'm talking to the kids for an hour. That guy, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, my math's a little shaky now that everything else, but that's about 136 hours a week. He's investing like 130 hours a week to get over on you, and I've got 40 minutes to kind of give you a quick overview of what to look out for. Who do you think's going to win in that long term? The bad guy. So we need to put our kids in a situation to recognize what's going on and to be able to make better decisions. So some of the things to look out for: unknown numbers, receiving gifts, minimizing screens, not wanting to go with friends or family, not being able to get online. The power goes out and the internet's down, and they're losing their mind. Something's going on there. So you want to look for those types of situations, the things that can't be explained. All of a sudden they're pulling away from you. They don't want to have dinner with you. They'd rather be on their phone, in another room, where that's a change in behavior. They've got a change in clothes that can't be explained away. So you watch for those types of behavior. Talk about what healthy relationships are. Make sure they understand what boundaries are. Have the ability to explain, nobody should ask for photos of you. They're your property, your privacy. You don't want to do that. Don't fall into the trap of, so-and-so did it for so-and-so, and everybody's doing it nowadays. Have a healthy relationship conversation with your kids so they know what to expect and what proper behavior is in relationships. So the sexting, the sending the photos, the National Center, the Clearinghouse of Information, estimates that by the time they graduate high school, almost 20% will have sent an explicit image and 34% will have received an explicit image. So, if I'm talking to 200 high school kids and they're an audience, then it's, from here over are going to be involved in a sexually explicit image before they graduate. It's an important statistic that can kind of be used two ways. Number one, it's almost half our kids are going to be involved in it in some way, shape, or form before they graduate high school, so we need to prepare them for that. We need to let them know the healthy relationship, don't send the photo. The requirement to be on the cheerleading team, don't send the photo. The freshmen or the popular seniors at the high school are demanding it, don't send the photo. And then the other way this information can help us is to say, I know you said Sally did it and Julie did it and Bob did it, but it's only 19%. Not everybody's doing it. It's a very low percentage. Don't give into the pressure when you hear stuff like, oh, everybody's doing it. All the relationships are doing this now. So just be aware of those numbers and understand that we can't just kind of stick our heads in the sand. We have to be prepared for it, and the best way to be prepared for it is before the fact, not after the fact. So they're doing it to be funny. Everybody's doing it. They don't know better. I did a presentation at a school's professional development day where we have basically this presentation and kind of like a sales pitch. So, it kind of gets the word out that we're available to come talk about this. I got a call the next day and I said, they said, hey, can you come do our fourth grade? And I'm like, sure, and this is just back in March or February, March. And I'm thinking, okay, we're coming into testing, end of school year. There's, sometime in September, October. And they're like, oh no, can you come in next week? So already I'm like, what happened? Because when I get the calls and said, how soon can you come in and talk to our kids? It's something happened. So the issue, and I ended up finding out, there was a fourth grader who took a video of herself in the shower and sent it to 6 boys in the fourth grade. Nothing was shown explicitly, but again, she's in the shower, water running, taking a video, and she thought it was okay to send to classmates. So it obviously became an issue, and we had to kind of reinforce what proper behavior is in the fourth grade. So it can happen at any age, and the important thing is the parents on that situation, they were kind of not as understanding as I guess everybody would hope. They kind of took the opinion of, well, she didn't show anything and she wasn't doing anything, so it was okay. That probably wasn't the best way to handle the situation. I'm not going to tell anybody how to be a parent, but we need to have healthy conversations with our kids and let them know that, videos in the shower, not the most appropriate place and definitely not something to share with. Taking that a step further, the FBI that gave me the briefing on the person they got with the 1,100 victims also kind of gave us an overview of where the most important or where most of the video or photos and videos that they're seeing, where they're being taken. So it's primarily bedrooms and bathrooms. So this is one of the things or one of the ground rules that we can talk about. Limiting their phone usage in bedrooms and bathrooms is a good way to limit their opportunity to take those videos or pictures. Because they need to do it in private. They don't want you to see what's going on, so bedrooms and bathrooms. And it's very difficult for us as adults to say you can't have your phone in your bedroom because we all sleep with our phones next to our bed. We look at it the second we wake up. A high percentage of us probably take the phones with us into the bathroom. It's just the story. It's just the way things are. So it's hard for us to set an example when we're doing it. But if we start early and let the kids know that, your phone's got to be left out in the dining room when you go to bed. You can't take it in the bedroom or the bathroom. And just be aware that that's where the problems, or that's where the majority of the bad photos are being taken. So if we can eliminate their opportunity to do things in there, that's one way to stay ahead of any potential issue. And just watch out for stuff. If you are in the house, and again, falling back to the very beginning, paying attention to things. Your daughter, your son, you can hear them on the phone because their bedroom door's, cracked open or half open, and you can hear them talking this whole conversation, and all of a sudden the door closes, and then it gets real quiet. That in the business, we call that a clue. Like something's going on that you might need to see what's going on and wonder, why did it get quiet and why did the door get closed all of a sudden? So, coming back to why are they sexting? Peer pressure. You have to do it to be accepted. Everybody's doing it and experimenting with relationships. But statistics show not all the relationships are doing it. So this next video, the high school kids see, and it also it does, drive home the point of they don't have control once they send the photo. It's the example I always use, you guys are, juniors in high school, you've known this person since kindergarten, you've been in a relationship, significant others since freshmen, and you're going to go to college together, and then you're going to get married and have kids and live happily ever after, right? Because every single high school relationship turns out that way. You send the photo, and then 6 weeks later, you're arguing with them, or the relationship goes sideways. Who has the control over you now? They do, and you're not getting along, and now you're going to worry about what's going to happen to that photo.
Lots of messages every day. But what if you got one like this? What would you do? Would you send a picture? No? Cool. That's an easy way to protect yourself. But what if you chose them differently? What if you send the picture? They never share it with anyone else, right? Do you want the picture shared with others? Sorry, you no longer have a choice. It's out of your hands now. Because sometimes people we trust break that trust. Maybe the person you sent the picture to shows it to some friends. Maybe they send it to a couple friends, who send it to a couple more friends, you get the idea. It spreads, and you never know who might see it. Your little brother, your mom? Other people at school?
Seriously?
I would never.
Even strangers could get a hold of your picture. You never really know where that picture will end up.
Stop, look at it.
How long it will be out there?
Ew,
Or what the consequences will be. Don't let others decide what happens to your image. Think before you share. Learn more.
So consequences, once it's out there, bullying, blackmail, problems at the school, potential legal problems in the community. So having that discussion about it, what's healthy relationships, not to send the photos, make sure there's ground rules and boundaries of what their expectations are. One of the ways to always do it, if it's a photo that you wouldn't want anybody seeing, have them, just don't send the photo. When I give the presentation to high school kids, I put them on the spot and I say, what's an inappropriate photo? And then I'll normally get the class comedian or whoever to raise his hand or her hand and say, nudes or private parts or whatever, and they're right. Nudes is the definition that most kids talk about when they're talking about sexually explicit photos. One of the points I try to make before I leave with them that day is to redefine it. And I don't want nudes to just be it. I tell them and I explain to them the new definition. 100% includes nudes, private parts, and everything else. But it's a photo that they're hiding from somebody. So if they're going in the bedroom to take the photo with the door closed, if they're in the bathroom taking the photo with the door closed, so mom, dad, whoever they live with doesn't see them take the photo, it's inappropriate. You know, I say, I don't care if you're in your bathing suit, I don't care if you're in your wrestling gi or guinea or mind blank right there. If you're in your cheerleading outfit, your swim trunks, whatever, if you're hiding the fact that you're taking the photo from mom, dad, or whoever you live with, it's now an inappropriate photo. And I say that, put yourself in a situation, would you want to have to explain why you took that photo? You know, would you have to explain to mom or dad or teachers or some, a younger brother or sister why you were doing that? And if you have to stop and think about it for a second, then that's not a photo we want to send. Sextortion, it's where somebody gets that photo and then starts demanding something of them, usually money. Go Venmo me money or go get me a gift card. The tax one we always hear on TV now. You've got a tax liability. Go to Walmart, buy a $400 gift card, send me the numbers on the back. It's the same thing for the kids. I've got this photo of you. If you don't go to the CVS, if you don't go to the Rite Aid, or you don't go somewhere and get me a gift card for $50 and give me the number in an hour, I'm going to send this photo to your mom. I'm going to post this photo to the school Facebook page. I'm going to do whatever the worst thing you can maybe think of until I find the pressure point to make you do it. So obviously, again, this is where, coming back to that trusted adult relationship we talked about. When or if your children find themselves in a situation where somebody's demanding something like this of them, do we want them to stress to find the money to go to CVS, or do we want them to raise their hand and say, look, I messed up, I need help, can you help me? And this is where, your response is key. Understand, listen, don't explode, and have the right response, so this way we can address the problem and help them through it. Report it to the app, report it to the National Center. The National Center is great for any type of situation that you've got a problem. Somebody's asking for photos from your child, or your child sent a photo. The slide's not here, it's a new relationship. It's called Take It Down. They have coordinated a relationship with various online platforms, OnlyFans, Pornhub, a couple of others that are escaping me right now. But if their photos are out there and they're posted, this new website or this new link called Take It Down, they will work with those providers and get the image taken down. Same thing, they have expertise to help you when it's sextortion. They have resources to point you in the right direction if somebody's soliciting them. So they're never too far from having the right information. The last topic to kind of cover is the bullying and technology. Basically using all this technology we've talked about to become a bully. The example I always use, when I'm walking home from school and, I would do something, I grew up in New York, so, we'd climb a fence because it was a shorter walk home, and I would use the example of, we climbed the fence with my friends, I slip and fall, I rip my pants. The friends I'm walking home with make fun of me the rest of the way home. On Saturday, they call me, wear my holy pants or whatever name they came up with, and then by Sunday it's forgotten about, and by Monday it's a memory. I said, that's not the world that the kids live in now. There's 50-person group chats, there's 100-person group chats, videos are getting posted to YouTube. The technology is following them home, it's haunting them all weekend, and then it's there for them on Monday morning when they come back to school. And that's the situation we have to understand. So we have to impress upon them, or our children, to do the right behaviors when we're talking about bullying and not being the internet tough guy. So talked about, following at home spreads faster. If we talk to, 300 high school kids, average group chat in high school is probably 25 to 50. So, if you have 500 kids, 3 or 4 group chats, you've got half the school. You go to 10 group chats, that's everybody in the building could know about something in the amount of time it takes to send a text message. And it's a very powerful tool, so we need to make sure they take the right behaviors and not engage in that type of behavior. So it does lead to a number of issues, the withdrawal, the pulling away from school, pulling away from family, feeling like they're up against the world by themselves, nobody's looking out for them. A lot of negative self-feelings when they're being bullied. They might stop using the phone or computer. One of the examples I always use, if you've got like a high school kid at home, and for years you thought you were gonna have to go to urgent care to have their phone like surgically removed from their hand because they never put it down. And now all of a sudden, the phone just sits on the counter and it dings, they get messages, they get emails, and the phone just sits there, where before, you were like, is that part of you? Something's going on. There's a reason they don't want to look at the phone. There's a reason they don't want to see what the text message is saying. That's that clue that we talked about, being aware, noticing that change in behavior, that something's going on. They're afraid of the phone now. Why are they afraid of the phone? What's going on? So there's four persons in the relationship when we talk about bullying. So there's the cyberbully, obviously, not much explanation needed. The person who's doing the work, so the person who's making the videos, who's posting the memes, who's starting the jokes. The victim's the person they're going after. The bystander and the upstander. So the bystander, just the person who's watching, doesn't engage, or possibly likes a inappropriate video or something like that. And then the upstander is a person who comes in and helps the person, reassures them, and is basically their friend. When I do the discussion, I usually argue or make the argument that the most important person, arguably in the relationship, is the bystander. And I'll always use the example, and the kids always nail it, so they know, they understand. If we're in a 20-person group chat, and it's me, I'm the bully, and we're in a 20-person group chat, and I post a meme about somebody in the group chat to harass them and annoy them and intimidate them, and I said, if I see 18 people leave the group chat, what messages does that send me as the bully? And then kids raise their hand and they go, well, you made a mistake, you lost your friends, you did something wrong. And I'm like, you're right. So that's what you can do as a bystander to send a message, leave the chat. And then I said, let's flip the coin. I post a message, like this video, look at so-and-so, he's so clumsy, check out this video. And, it's me, the person the video is about, and 18 other people in the chat. If all 18 of those people go like the video and go, haha, LOL, that's great, post more, how's that going to make me feel? And then, they nail it again. They're like, you're going to feel empowered, you're going to want to do it again, and the person who is being victimized is going to feel worse. I said, so what's the right answer in those situations? And they're like, well, you can stand up to the bully, tell him it was wrong and everything else. And I'm like, 100% that's the best answer. But sometimes it might be tough to do that if it's your best friend or you're nervous. But you can be a friend to the person who's getting picked on. You can be that upstander. You can help them feel better, not feel lonely, not feel like the world's against them, and just be a shoulder for them. So some things you can do if you happen to have the person on the bullying end. One of the best things to always do is save the evidence. From my time as an SRO and as a sergeant in the town, the hardest thing and the relationship I had with the high school, and I'm sure it's not too far from the same answer we would get here, one of the hardest things to do for the school to deal with is when Joe and John come in and they both say, one's bullying the other, and they both come in and it's a he said, or he said, she said, or she said, and they're just pointing fingers. It's much easier for the school to figure out what's going on if they can see the exchange or they see the back and forth between the two. And sometimes that's difficult because, people tend to respond in kind. So they'll just turn in half the story or delete certain messages or everything else. We want to just turn in what happened, document what happened with screenshots as best we can. If it's possible, block the cyberbully, set up new accounts, and do what you can to address it, whether it's in the school or if it's a harassment type thing and it's something that would rise to level law enforcement involvement, or if it's something that the National Center can help you with. So watch out for, again, cyberbullying behaviors. If you've got like a big couch in your living room and your son or daughter or whoever would sit there with the laptop open and their phone up every time, and every time you walk by, you could tell they're watching YouTube and they're just texting friends and they never flinch, great. But then all of a sudden, for a couple of days, every time you walk in the room, the screen gets closed, the phone goes face down, and then they get up and go in their room. And they do that for like a couple of days. There's a change in behavior there. Something's different with that person. What's going on? Why do they not want you to see what they're doing? What's the big secret all of a sudden? And that's where, again, everybody sitting here is the best person to tell and identify those changes in behavior. So we want to have that intervention. We want to have good relationships. So we have the expectation that our children are not going to be the ones who engage in that type of behavior. And you can use the example, and I always use this example when I talk to the kids, not so much with the ones driving age, but the younger kids a little bit. I say, if I'm talking like, say, 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, 9th, and I'm like, the phone's a big responsibility, and in a couple of years, everybody here is going to want to start to drive. The best way to show your parents that you have responsibility and you can make good decisions is to start with the phone. If you're constantly making bad decisions with your phone, you're getting in trouble because you're bullying somebody, you're getting in trouble because you're having inappropriate conversations. There's always a situation with your phone. Your parents are going to think twice about wanting to give you more responsibility when it comes time for you to drive. So now is a good time to kind of, set the example that you can make better decisions or make good decisions. Talk to your children about being the upstander. They don't have to go out there, and be the person's best friend who's getting picked on and bullied, but they can talk to them in the hallway and say hi. They can sit with them at lunch. They can message them and say, what, that wasn't right, I'm your friend. Do the right thing, make the right decision so that person doesn't feel like they're alone. So understand the tech options. Again, there's no one app that's perfect for everything. There's varying levels of capture, there's varying levels of monitoring and various price points. So it's a matter of what you're comfortable with. But the most important thing is being a good observer and watching for changes in behavior. Connect, learn, and engage. Connecting with your kids to know that, so they know that you're there for them, but also you engage with them to understand what the popular apps are. If I do this presentation in Delaware, TikTok's popular, but Snapchat's like, right now. It's more Instagram. If I go to, this area of Pennsylvania, maybe it's Snapchat's more popular than Instagram. So it runs hot and cold in certain areas. So you should engage to understand what's popular in your community, what everybody's talking about. And then these are just some of the resources that are available. Everything's available online. There's nothing proprietary in the presentation. The National Center encourages everybody to go on there and to get additional information. And they are there to help you to understand what's challenges they're facing. If anybody has any questions that I couldn't answer or the school couldn't answer, they'll have the answer or they will get the expert to call you back and get the answer to you. When we were talking about location, and I can't believe I forgot it because it's always a lot of fun for me to do it, and it's just one last little thing. Because I always get like 1 or 2 jaws to drop, and it's the reaction on the faces is like worth it for me. Just so everybody's aware, my iPhone users, I just want to show you something. On your own phones, if you can go into settings for a second. I have to flashback here really quick. And then scroll down to privacy and security. And then at the top of that next page, there'll be location services. Click on that. And then Scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says System Services, click on that. And then scroll all the way down to the bottom of that page, and it should say Significant Locations. If you have it on, open it up. Did anybody have it on? Okay, what did we think? Interesting or a little scary? So that, just to kind of re-emphasize how powerful the phone is, monitoring, your actions and where you are and what you're doing to see what's been going on. And there was also one of the provided questions talks about, even if you turn the phone off, can you still kind of see where can you see where the kids have gone with the phone? There was a test, or somebody did a test, and there was a video about it. They took 2 phones. They shut one off, and they left one on, okay? And they went to New York. They took like a taxi ride, like 10 blocks. They got on a bike. They took a bike across town. They went up in a building, through an elevator, then took the stairs down, and then went back to their starting point. And they downloaded the information that was on the phone and the metadata. So it's basically, the location, constant location services. Basically, the result of that was the phone that was on, you could tell, speed, location, altitude, and everything else. The phone that was off, even though it was off, was still capturing enough data that they were able to determine, where the person was, not so much, how fast they were going and some of the other actual specifics, but even with the phone turned off, they were able to capture enough data to know where the person was and what they were doing. Kind of like why you see in the movies, all the spy movies and everything else, when they break the phone, they get rid of the phone or drop the battery, because the phone is always on even when it's off. So it's just, again, something to think about. So that's all I have. If anybody, I think we do have questions, or somebody else is going to say something for a minute. I know I've rambled on pretty long here tonight.
Again, let's actually do a few rounds of applause. So the next thing we wanted to do tonight is we wanted to localize a little bit. So we wanted to have Chief Paul Dickinson join us to say what are the trends that we're seeing locally? What are we seeing in our communities here in Pennridge? And what are the things that are our kids, my kids, your kids, what are they actually doing? What are they seeing from the police standpoint?
All right, good evening. I am Chief Paul Dickinson with the Pennridge Regional Police Department. We service East and West Rockville Townships, so we're responsible for the high school, North Middle School, and 4 elementary schools. So we see a lot of almost everything that the gentleman from the Secret Service went over, we've seen it. Yeah, we've seen it in our schools, we've seen it in our kids' phones, we've seen it in criminal investigations. So everything he's talking about, that I sit here and I'm listening to it and go, oh, that's why my 11-year-old shuts the door all the time, or that's why my 15, 16-year-old is, always got his head buried in his phone. These are concerning things, and to be honest with you, I'm glad I'm not a kid now, because if they could have videoed half the stuff I did, or any of us in this room probably think the same thing. If there was a record of what we did, I probably wouldn't be a police chief. And some of us probably wouldn't be teachers, and all those type of things. So it's a little concerning, and it's a scary thing, but I think one of the most important things that the gentleman from the Secret Service said that we've learned, and I've learned since I've been in this area, is the communication with your children. You need to know what your kids are doing. When they're in their room and they have the door shut for 4 or 5 hours at a time, go in there and drag them out and talk to them. And even if it's something as simple as just say, what are you doing? I mean, like, I'm an 11-year-old, and there's days when she'll go in the bedroom and we almost have to drag her out of the bedroom for dinner. I mean, it's crazy when you think about that, but that's I think any of us with kids in this room are probably experiencing something similar to that. So local trends that we're seeing, I'm going to start off real simple. I haven't really seen it much here, but I saw it in my previous department, and I've seen it in raising a teenage daughter, a teenage stepdaughter. They're dating boys, and I don't know if the girls are doing it to the boys, but the girls are dating the boys, and the boys want all their names and all their usernames to their accounts. So they can see, so the boys can see who the girls are talking to. I think that's something as a parent and as a mother and as a father, to let our daughters know that that's not acceptable. You don't need to know who I'm talking to. I'm an adult, I'm my own person. So that controlling aspect of it and the, I want to know who you're texting and all those things. And we have to get through to our kids that no one has to control you. And I think that that's one of the things that I saw firsthand with my, she was 17 at the time, my 17-year-old stepdaughter. She was going through that with a boyfriend. And finally her mother sat her down and was like, you gotta stop talking to this guy. You gotta break up with him. He's trying to control you. And I don't think any of us in this room want that for our daughters or our sons or, ourselves. I don't think that even as adults we would want that situation. So what else are we seeing in the schools? We've had an incident at one of the neighboring middle schools where a young lady, did a sexting type situation and sent it to a friend or sent it to a boyfriend, and 6 months later, someone airdrops it in the cafeteria to everybody in the cafeteria. So now here's this picture of this young lady, and everybody in the school has it. Anybody who accepted it from airdrop. That's a very difficult thing for us to investigate, and it's a very difficult thing for the school to regulate and for people to control. So that's where these pictures, that once you take them, they're out in the middle for everybody to see, everybody to look at, and they can be sent to whoever. Additionally, we're seeing a lot of the mass invites on Snapchat, and then we're seeing that as a sexting, cyberbullying. We worked a case just recently where we had a very similar situation on Snapchat. Someone did a large group send to be friends with everybody on Snapchat. Someone reached out, hey, we're gonna smoke some marijuana, and he ends up not letting her leave until she performs a sexual act on him. Okay, so we have to be aware of where our kids are going and who they're going, where they're going, things of that nature. Similar to Snapchat, kids will have a group setting in their Snapchats. I don't know, we call it whatever we call it, the tough Perkins kids or something crazy like that. I'm just throwing that out there, it's not true, but, and they start talking to each other, and then they say, hey, there's 25, 50 kids, like the previous speaker said, and then they're going off into side rooms and they're selling drugs and they're making arrangements to buy drugs through Snapchat to get onto a different app on Discord or a similar app of that nature that's selling links to purchase drugs. We've seen that a little bit. Send me a picture of yourself, and then they lock them out of their Instagram account and they want money. It's been my experience that in most of those situations they're trying to get money out of your kids, or they're trying to get money out of you. The most important thing that we can instill of all of our children is that aspect of once we send it out there, we don't have control anymore. So most of the time, it's, hey, send me this picture on Instagram, and then they figure out a way to lock down the Instagram account. And then, hey, you give me your money, you give me some money, and I'll unlock your account. If you don't do that, I'm gonna send all these pictures to your family. Or I'm gonna post it on your Facebook account. Or I'm gonna post it on your Snapchat. Things of that nature. We see that. There's really not much that we can do at a local level with that, besides tell you to contact Instagram, contact Facebook, or whatever the app is that you're using. That's a large majority of what we see. Also, kind of a sad incident with a young lady who had her phone. She was speaking to some gentleman. We're not really sure where he was from. We were unable to tie him down. But we had the young lady's phone for a long period of time because we were trying to get legal documents to proceed with an investigation. Well, mom went and bought her a phone in the meantime while we have her phone. And the detective goes and opens up the phone to do investigative stuff on the phone. And there's all these messages because as soon as she got that new phone, she just started communicating with this gentleman. Gentleman's not a very good word to use for it, but she's just continuing on with this. So mom just does the right thing, brings it to us, says, oh my God, this is happening to my daughter, and then goes and buys her a new phone, and she's just doing the same thing again. So we really have to be aware of the predator aspect of it and the communication aspect for our kids. We got to know what our children are doing. So I think they're the most important things that I can say that we're experiencing here. And if you do learn anything from the presentation tonight, is we need to be more involved in our kids' lives and understand what's going on.
Hi, sorry to ask a question, but I feel so old listening to this. Seriously, and I mean that from the standpoint of I don't even
Well, I can say that,
This was all great, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, and it makes a lot of sense. But it's not, I don't know where to go. And I'm not talking about an app or something like that, but like, how do you actually do this? I don't even know how to get into my child's phone in terms of like digging down deep to see what's actually really going on. I can see surface stuff, but they know so much more technology that they could snow me in a heartbeat. So how do you learn that? Where do you learn that?
I think the most effective way for you to learn it is to really talk to your kids and get the relationship with your children. I know, yeah, that's the easy answer. The other thing too is you need to reach out to some of these resources. The National Missing and Exploited Children website, YouTube. I mean, you can probably Google how do I access my kid's phone, and it's probably there. I mean, I'm being honest with you. Like, I mean, when we come into a situation as investigators, the first thing we do is we hop on Facebook and try to find these people, or we hop on Instagram and try to find these people. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar, but we had someone dump a body at the hospital last week at Grandview. It was a shooting victim. We located her family through Facebook. That's what we did. I mean, it wasn't, we didn't have phone numbers there from Alabama. We had nothing to go on, and she had her phone, and she got a message on Facebook, and we were able to access her Facebook and figure it out. So it doesn't really cover your question. I'm sorry. I would be more willing to talk to you afterwards because I know that we want to get everybody out of here. But if you want to grab me outside, I'll try to discuss more with you. Okay?
Thank you for taking the question.
Yeah, no problem.
Good evening. My name is Jen Summers. I'm the Director of Pupil Services here at Pennridge. I have the wonderful opportunity to work and support daily our school counselors, our psychologists, our social workers, our nurses, our special education and gifted teachers. So every day they're working with our students to figure out ways in which we can support them throughout their day. So tonight, just like what Mr. Thomas said, I'm here just to talk a little bit about, from the school district end, what we have available for students when they're struggling. And it's a repeat of what we've heard tonight. Is the first piece is really understanding, when there's a change of behavior, within a student. We've talked a lot about what it looks like at home, but we also need to identify what it looks like, within school. Sometimes when students are engaging in risky behavior online, or they are part of a cyberbullying incident, sometimes there's a deeper piece to that. There's something else that's going on. And, I want to talk a little bit about what we have available for students when they are experience that. So obviously identifying a change in students' behavior, sometimes we'll see behaviors in schools that are very apparent. We can see them very easily. And then sometimes we see kiddos in school that there's small changes in behavior, but then they continue to occur and we wonder, what's going on. Sometimes it's a withdrawal from the learning process. It could be an increase of absences. We're not seeing the student in school nearly as much. They're struggling with peer friendships. Sometimes it's a sudden change in grades. A student that's working really hard and all of a sudden we see a sudden change in grades. We're not really sure why. There's an increase or a presence of acting out behaviors, which maybe we haven't seen in the past. And then sometimes we have reports provided by peers or friends noting a concern or a worry for a friend. So when this happens, whether it's brought to our attention or we're able to observe it, what's next? What are we here to do? How can we help support? So I tried to break it down because obviously supports for students are very student specific. What we provide for one student may look very different from what we provide to another student. But I tried to break it down into when the supports happen and how quickly supports can happen for a student. So immediately, if we're identifying that a student is struggling, their counselor is always available. They're able, readily available to be with a student at any time. Sometimes we have our students that are feeling comfortable enough to meet with a teacher after school. And then sometimes what we'll do when we see a student that's struggling and we're talking with them and we're talking with the family, it's bringing the family in just to gather some additional information. As you've heard in the presentation, communication is so important, and that home-school connection is also very important as well. When we're able to work as a team, I feel like we're able to support students even quicker. So immediately, these are some of the things that we're doing to work with our students that we can see that may be struggling. So from there, so you have a student, that maybe is checking in with a counselor, and we're identifying that maybe they need a little more support, or where do we go from here? Is it more than just that initial check-in? So what we can do is sometimes a student feels comfortable enough, they want to have weekly check-ins with the counselor. So we're talking to the parents, we're saying, they feel comfortable in doing this, we embed it into their schedule, and it's another place for us just to really, sometimes it's just to sit and listen. It's not so much to counsel, and sometimes counseling for us is just sitting and listening and providing a space for a student to be able to talk to us about, what's going on. Sometimes we may have students that will escalate quite quickly, or maybe they are in a crisis situation. We do have crisis counselors here within the district at all 3 levels that we're able to provide that immediate support if need be. Sometimes what we'll also do is we'll put a child study team together. So a student struggling, we're seeing it within the school, the classroom. We're going to bring people together. So that's the principal, that's the counselor, that could be a special education supervisor, that could be an IST teacher, where we come together and say, okay, what can we do? What are we observing? And what are the next steps is how we can support this student. And then schedule check-ins with the student, school team, and family. A little bit different than a counselor check-in. Sometimes we're identifying that the families need us just as much as the kids do. So being able to sit down with a family member and talk to them about what we're observing in school and to give them some suggestions of what they can do within the home setting is something that we'll do as well to also support our kids. So then as far as the ongoing or what we call long-term supports, sometimes even after we've kind of gone through the tiered of different supports, we're identifying that the student's going to need a longer term of care or something that's ongoing. So within our programs, we have something called the Student Assistance Program, or SAP, and this is a program that we have in all of our buildings. It's something that really supports students that may be at risk, and at risk can look very different from one student to the next. So again, it's getting a team of people together, including the families, to talk with them about what we're seeing and how we can support and provide both in-school and out-of-school resources for them. Our community support is provided by our social workers. They are a plethora of information. We have 3 social workers within the district, and they are there to help bridge the communication between home and school, also to provide services outside of school and what those could look like. So again, we notice when a student is struggling with behavior, typically we need to have supports in both avenues, within the school and outside of school. And they are a really great resource for us to help us with that piece. Sometimes we have students where we're identifying that they're struggling, and sometimes it spills into their learning, and then we have to dig a little bit deeper to really see what's going on. So sometimes we'll offer what you call an MDE, which is a multidisciplinary evaluation. It's led by our psychologists. We have 6 school psychologists here within the district. And what we do is we kind of take a deeper dive into what might be going on, and whether that's testing, observations, rating scales, talking with the family, to really see if there's something that we can further program for that student within their classroom. And then also, we do have some students that receive weekly counseling to support specific areas of need. And typically that's identified specifically from an IEP team. So really, what I'm really here to say, I guess, overall is that we really do have a village of people here at Pennridge to support our students. And while, like I said, everything is very individualized, we can easily go into these tiers of supports to support our students at any time. I will be here at the end of the presentation, so if anyone has specific questions regarding the supports, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Sorry, because it matters. So to pick up on Chief Paul's conversation about communication, we would again like to thank you, and we'd like you to continue to communicate with us. We thought this was a valuable presentation to bring to you tonight. We'd like to have more topics that are important to you. So please feel free to communicate with us. You can email us, you can message us on social media. I want to go to the topic tonight, but please do that. If there are topics that you as parents want to know more about, we are available to you. We'd love to hear what those topics are. So once again, thank you to our panelists who came tonight.